Hey guys, here's the gear for Austere August. Again, same stuff. Timeless open comb 68 gap stainless steel razor, Nacet blade. Currently at 551 uses, so today we're going to add one to that. And Declaration Grooming B13 knot, been soaking. And the Dogwood, Stephen at Dogwood created this hybrid handle in conjunction with Briar Brushworks as well. And Midnight Stag from Chiseled Face is the soap, splash, and the cologne toward the end of the shave for today. And indeed, all of August. Not a lot of soap left. It's had some moisture in there. And so I bet I can get away with 10 swirls of the brush and have plenty of lather. Let's just try. Get the brush really wet again so I can kind of shake out the amount of water. I like to feel the weight difference, and you can, in terms of kind of recording how much water is still in the brush, or at least in your own mental kind of recollection as you try to dial in your lathers. A couple of landmarks you can look for is pull that soaking brush out. Like a 45-degree angle will usually be that point where if it's going to drip out due to gravity, then that's the maximum point. A lot of times if you go flatter or this way, then it'll be enough surface tension where it'll hold on to things. But at this angle, it's less likely. Okay, so there's going to be lots of water. This is a big knot, a 28 millimeters. And so it's a badger, so it's absorbing a little bit of the water, but there's lots of spaces for the water to be. With a synthetic knot, not going to hold nearly as much water just because of its nature. And you can also then use this if you want lots of water in your on your face lather or in your bowl or whatever you're using. You can start to do a couple of shakes. Now you've got kind of medium amount of water, still very wet. You can give it a couple more until you kind of start to feel it like the way you want. Of course, you can also, in tracking the shakes is one, potential way. I've got a friend out there who he uses a certain amount of water and starts with a dry brush. And so it's very scientific. He knows exactly how much water he's using. And then I think he measures his soap out as well. And so he gets, of course, as you would expect, really consistent results. All right. So we're going to take this lightly wet brush, do about 10 swirls here. You could even see a little bit of the water was left in there. You may have seen that swirl. So 10. It did start to bubble just a little bit toward the end there, but that is just, I'm going to let anything drip out of gravity-wise, drip out of the tub that can, which is a few drops. And then I'm going to cap the soap and put it away. All right. Oh, hey, before we get too far, see, that's what always happens, and that's okay. That's just the early stages. Before my hands get all weird, let me put the blade in the razor. So there's the Nacet with all of its markings. Get my face wet now. You know what clued me in that I had forgotten some things? I was starting to work the lather, and my hand was feeling really good on the brush. I noticed it was because it was dry, and then that clued me. I said, hey, something's wrong with your procedure here. Normally I have wet hands because I just finished putting water, splashing some water on my face when I'm picking up my brush to start building up a lather. And sure, looks like we've got plenty just with those 10 swirls. And it's due to that extra water being in the tub. By coming to the soap with a brush that has, you know, some water in it that it's going to kind of leave behind in the soap, then that's what's causing it to be so quick to load. If you want to use a drier brush, then you'll have a little bit longer load times. One nice thing about being kind of conservative on how much soap you're using is you can spend less time mixing because you have a proper amount of soap instead of having to keep adding water and all that stuff. So this month, I don't think I'm gonna track how much water I'm adding. I've got a lot of videos out there prior to the last couple of years that, I mean a lot. I think almost 1,500 is how many videos I've got out there, and a little bit more water. And so there's plenty of examples that if you really want to try to have more of a guide with creating a bowl lather, plenty other videos out there to help you with that in terms of more precise water amounts in case you're having some trouble and you're kind of guessing at the amounts and you just, you know, for some reason happen to be guessing a little wrong. Just find one of those older videos. I think I've probably added maybe 2 teaspoons to what was already started from the water that was in the brush. I think we're just going to go ahead and use this. It looks pretty pliable. And if I need to throw in a little bit more water, I can. When you're working and if you develop that little dry spot in the middle, sometimes that's a sign that you need a little bit more water in your lather, or your lather could use more water if you wanted to do that. But easy way during the shave, if you don't want to stop and add some more water, just kind of rotate the lather from the outside of the brush and then push that empty spot right on top of it. It'll happen again, but it's okay. You're still getting good mixes in the process. Which is not going to be as slick of a lather as I usually get when I add more water. So I'll probably add a little bit more before the next pass. 10 swirls. And I've still got just tons of lather here. Tons. While I'm thinking about it, why don't I go ahead and let this sit on my beard, maybe soften my hairs a little bit. And I'm going to add another teaspoon or so. Looking good. You can see how much lather we're dealing with here from just that little bit of loading. The water, a little bit of residual moisture makes it so easy for the soap to reach up and hang on to the brush tips. All right. With a razor like this, it's got a very big cavity for the, what is it, swarf? Is that the name for the stubble and all the hair bits and the soap and all the lather chunks? And it's got a nice cavity, empty spot to gather all that, and so you can do kind of a whole pass without having to rinse your razor. Water now. One of the nice things about doing 5 passes, because the blade is so old, is that even if I miss an area totally, it's not a big deal. You can kind of move quick because you know you're going to hit it several times. Pass number 2. As always, I use those water rinse, kind of water splashes on my face between passes to gauge the hydration of my lather. How does it make my skin feel? What kind of slickness do I feel as I'm maybe evaluating checking out a new soap base? That's pretty funny. That little clod you just saw come off the brush landed right in my lather bowl. Recycling. Third pass. Always holding the razor gently, just tight enough to keep control of it, letting it float along my skin, if at all, where at all possible, so we don't dig in, cause irritation. Fourth. Probably the last. Don't need to do a 5th on my cheeks, but if any of you guys have watched me for a while, sometimes I'm so much on automatic that I'll just lather up my cheeks anyway. Yep, I think just maybe a touch up on the bottom. Might not even be necessary. Little neck work to polish things off. And with that, left over from the 10 swirls of loading, we could still do a whole other shave with what's left in here. Yep, feels good. I can just feel the resistance. I can hear the sound that the stubble has been taken care of nicely. And there we go. And there we have a good rinse. Oh, got some lather on my little drying towel here because yeah, it was on my shirt. The blobs kept dropping off, and then I didn't see because my shirt has designs and stuff on it, so got a little bit there. Rinse out the razor and grab the Midnight Stag Splash. Still got plenty in it for a couple more weeks. It might even make it to the entire end of the month. I do have another one on standby for when this one goes out. You don't want to take a chance when you're doing all of August with a contest with your buddies of it running out. You know, if I ever embrace menthol in the aftershave splashes, like a lot of guys enjoy it, it has to be. It will almost certainly be because of using the Midnight Stag on Austere August, because that's the only one I ever use that has that, and because normally I don't like it. But if I just get used to it somehow and it becomes a part of my routine, it'll be because of Midnight Stag. And we'll go ahead and enjoy the EDP. And then I'm going to clean this large quantity of lather out of the bowl. Trying to push the pause button there, but it's being a little strange. Is it because my finger's wet? Oh well, maybe they'll catch up. Phone's getting old and slow. I usually take the bowl rinsing moment to think if there are any other last words, any other pieces of advice that I might want to pass on. As always, make sure you get your brush nice and well rinsed if it's an animal hair brush. You don't want that soap in there kind of eating away, chemically speaking, at your natural hair fibers. Then a good swing, jiggle on the sink. Oh, now look right there. I talked about this. Funny, I talked about this just the other day. So I do my little sling out operation and I end up with some whiteness right there. Probably means I need to rinse it for a little bit longer. There's a little bit of lather still left in the core there. Every once in a while, I've got this other Badger brush, and it seems that the treatment of the tips, whoever made that brush, and now I do that same sling out and it's missing. So there we go, nice clean brush. Whoever made the other brush must have been uneven in the way they caked on the bleach gel, whatever is used to treat the tips. And there was a little area on the sides that tricked me for a while because it would just look extra gooey. It would look like there was still soap there, but it wasn't. it was because of the that area was just seems to be a little bit more treated than the other tips, and so it just had a different texture, and it kind of fooled me for a little bit, thinking there was soap there, but it wasn't. It was just the extra jelly brush tips. So now go to the towel with it, and this is how it looks after a nice towel stropping. And man, what a big knot. Big knots aren't really necessary. I used a 22 millimeter for a very long time, and even smaller bore brushes can be very successful and enjoyable. And so you don't need a big knot. But what I found that I liked about this particular big knot, and the big knots that I do like, is it just gives that kind of wall of badger softness. A smaller brush just wouldn't give you the same feel because the amount of surface that's touching you with the tips is smaller. And so it's just a different sensation. And so I've learned that some big knots I do really enjoy. And I'm glad that I kind of experimented and bought a few and tested them out. Like one that I have here next to me here. This is a honking big brush, 30-something millimeter from Fader. And it is huge. And this is a 28 millimeter, so you can kind of compare a little bit with the diameter there. And once I tried this guy, I was like, oh, that it just the feel of all those tips, because you don't have to worry about splay quite as much when you have the big knot, because the tips themselves are covering a larger area. And so in terms of the way splay can provide a plush feel on your face, for me, the bigger knots don't have to do that as much. However, they don't need to have backbone in a strong term. I don't like that. So it kind of needs to be in that perfect little spot. So for me, sometimes it's been difficult to find just the right brushes. All right, well, that is today's shave all done. Thank you so much for watching. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Have a good night.